Hello and welcome to the Stories of Northern Life from the Sault Ste. Marie Museum. Looking into our collection at the 1800s in Sault Ste. Marie, we are only left with paintings to give us a visual of what life was really like around here. I was recently at the Art Gallery of Ontario in Toronto and spotted a painting by Paul Kane titled Scene in the Northwest. Though this painting was not of Sault Ste. Marie, I remembered his name in Sault Ste. Marie history and took a deeper look into his character. So let's get into it. Who is Paul Kane? He was one of Canada's most traveled painters. He traveled by horseback, canoe, and on foot to paint buffalo herds, fur traders, and native encampments. Kane made 68 known sketches of this area from 1845 to 1848. Canada was still very underdeveloped at the time, and he had helped paint a portrait of what the country looked like. And Paul Kane immersed himself into the land and the people that inhabited it. He was able to capture what he saw and learned through graphite, watercolors, and oil on paper. He produced over 700 pictures and accompanying journal descriptions of the lives of Indigenous people in Canada. Kane was born in 1810 in Mallow, County Cork, Ireland, though his family immigrated to Toronto, known as York at the time, when he was just 9 years old. By the late 1820s, he had made a career of both painting furniture and people's portraits. To progress further in the field, he traveled to Europe to learn for 4 years from the works of famous artists there. He came across an American artist named George Catlin, who will be one of the artists in this series. Paul was deeply inspired by Catlin's work in painting Indigenous people across Canada, so he wanted to do just that. By 1845, he was set off to start this project. He stayed in Sault Ste. Marie in the first year of his travels, in August 1848. It was his second stop after sketching for a few weeks at Saughon Reserve, not far from today's Sauble Beach. He was back again in May 1846, and again in October 1848. This is because of a meeting with John Ballenden, the Hudson's Bay Company chief trader at Sault Ste. Marie. He changed Kane's immediate plan to continue west beyond Lake Michigan area. The fur trader pointed out the difficulties such a trip involved as a solo traveler, and suggested that he first request assistance from Sir George Simpson, the superintendent of the HBC in Northern America. Following this advice, Kane returned to Toronto that autumn and visited Simpson in Montreal. Kane received permission to travel with the company's fur brigades and was promised free lodging at company posts. That winter, he remained in Toronto and painted canvases from the previous summer sketches. He produced a great number of sketches that later turned into paintings on both trips. His paintings and sketches of the Sioux show an Indigenous encampment on the American side, Indigenous people paddling canoes in the rapids, the Canadian shores, with a ruined grist mill built by Charles Emmetinger, a portrait of Suzanne Belleau, and an Indigenous boy who wore a chief's medal. He traveled across Canada for 3 years with the goal of recording Ojibwe people as accurately as possible by European standards. Kane was motivated by the concerns that European expansion would erode the wilderness and the Indigenous people's way of life. As he progressed on the journey, seeing things like one of the last great buffalo hunts in North America before buffalo almost became extinct. He intended to draw the sites of European tradition in which he studied, obtaining testimonials to maintain accuracy. Now some say he went too far in Eurocentrism, adding Italian and French-styled exaggerated stormy skies and dramatic lighting. Even though now there are some debates on his work, He was quite successful then, even displaying his work at the 1855 World Fair in Paris. That was still 34 years before the 1889 World's Fair, in which the Eiffel Tower was constructed. And some of his works were even sent to Buckingham Palace in 1858 for consideration by the Queen. He lived the rest of his life settled in Toronto, maintaining his studio on King Street as a professional painter living off commissions. Though his eyesight worsened and forced him to stop painting by the 1860s. We have him to thank for the images of the past and for his attempts to share awareness of his concerns for the future development and overpower of the Europeans in the vast wilderness and the first people who lived here. There are more artists of European descent that followed the Anishinaabe in this region and painted or sketched scenes of their lives, like Kathleen, who influenced Paul Kane to continue to shed light on these beliefs. I hope you learned something new about Sault Ste. Marie history and people who have influenced it. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you again next week.